Welcome back to Movies Recapped. Today I will show you an American crime drama from 2014, called The Gambler. Warning: spoilers ahead. Watch out and enjoy. A man sits in a hospital, a single tear falling down his face. The elderly man he is visiting, his grandfather, asks him a series of tough questions that the younger man is clearly uncomfortable answering. The questions are about the old man's death and what the young man will do after he is gone. The young man tries to ease his grandfather's worries, but fails to convince even himself. Rather than spend time with his family after the funeral, he makes his way to a large estate that doubles as an underground gambling hall. There, he sits down at an open blackjack table and bets all that he brought with him. He wins, and makes a series of larger and riskier bets that ends with him losing $80,000. Seeing his defeat, he leaves the table and heads to the bar where he has a run-in with another patron. The two make a bet against one another about a single card draw. Whoever pulls the higher card wins. The man that just lost his grandfather loses this game as well, along with his last bundle of cash. Before leaving the gambling hall, he is brought in to speak with the owner, a man named Lee, who is concerned that the man is racking up a debt that he won't be able to repay. As of now, he owes the establishment $240,000. Lee gives him 1 week to pay back what he owes, or he will be murdered. Outside, he borrows $50,000 from a loan shark named Neville Baraka. He re-enters the establishment and pays Lee $40,000, keeping $10,000 to gamble with. He goes back to a blackjack table where he manages to win $24,000. He takes these winnings to the roulette table where he bets it all on black, and loses. At dawn he leaves the gambling hall and walks into his day job, a lecture hall. Jim Bennett is a professor of literature in Los Angeles. During this class discussion on Shakespeare, he makes the point that there is only so much talent to go around and that simply put, not everyone has it, though people fail to accept this. He compares this to sports. Most people are fine with the fact that they will never go on to be a professional athlete, so why is it any different in this field? He flat out tells the students that if they are not geniuses at what they want to do, then they shouldn't bother even trying. He singles out athletes in his class who are great at their sports. Lastly, he singles out Amy Phillips. She is a quiet student, but he asserts that she is the only person in the room, including himself, that has the potential for greatness in the literary field. He asks about her family. Did she have any particular advantage in becoming the writer that she is today? No, it turns out, she was simply born with a prodigious talent for reading and writing. After class, Jim visits his mother, Roberta, at the family's large estate. He asks her to help him out of the money situation he has gotten himself into. Seeing his behavior as self-destructive, she refuses. With 6 days left to repay Lee, Jim considers borrowing money from another loan shark named Frank. This would consolidate his debts into one spot and give himself some more time to get the money. However, the amount he is asking for is far more than Frank generally loans out to people. Frank agrees to lend it to him on the grounds that Jim says he isn't a man but is a scumbag gambler, which Jim refuses. Before the following class, Amy sits alone and asks if he really meant what he said when he told her that she had talent. She then confronts him about his gambling life. She is a waitress at Lee's establishment and has seen him lose a fortune. At this, he shuts down emotionally and she quickly walks out. When she returns, it is with his book in hand, and she demands that he sign it for her. Then, she throws his ideas back at him, asking if it was something he wrote because he believed in it or if it was because he thought it was what people wanted from him. This shuts him down further and he says that they will not be having that conversation. Sensing defeat, Amy asks him what it is that he wants, and tells him that what she wants is dinner. Jim's face shows that he wants that too, but says that isn't something he does anymore. In a different class, Jim gets into a discussion with Lamar, the school's star basketball player. Lamar is on track to be drafted by the NBA and has the full support of the higher-ups at the school to be coddled. Because of this, he rarely pays attention in class and spends the whole time texting. This bothers Jim to no end, and he tries to have a conversation about the topic with him, but he is let down. He ends up going on a rant about how he is a fake teacher, and they are fake students, because neither is accomplishing what they are there to do. He dismisses class early but has Lamar stay after. He asks that Lamar pay attention for just the hour that he is in Jim's class. Lamar is glad that he was asked to stay after because he wanted to talk anyway and didn't know who else to talk to. Everyone else in his life just tells him what he wants to hear and then does what they can to keep him in his basketball star box. Jim, though, demands more from him. Demands more by talking about existentialism and bigger things. Lamar then admits to Jim that he has knee problems, that none of the coaches know, and that if he doesn't manage to go pro sooner rather than later, he probably won't be able to. The two bond over this information. As Jim is watching his car being taken by Neville's men, his mother walks in. One of the men that Jim owes money to called her for information about him. This leads them to finally have an honest conversation about his debts, during which Roberta is convinced to help him pay his debts, more for her own safety than his. After handing it off to a numb-looking Jim, she tells him that if he is ever in trouble like this again, he will not hear from her. Without thanking his mother, he takes the money and walks off, leaving his mother heartbroken. On a whim, Amy goes with Jim on a drive into the desert where they sit and talk. He finally opens up about some of his problems, though he still denies many. He takes her and the money to a casino. Just like at Lee's Hall, she watches as he wins and wins, just to lose it all as he always goes all in. She leaves him to it as he squanders away all $260,000 that his mother gave him to help him. With 3 days left to pay back Lee, Neville finds Jim and kidnaps him. Jim has been dodging his calls and tells Neville it's because he isn't afraid to die at his hands. Neville tortures Jim, and then asks if he knows Lamar Allen, the basketball player. Neville leaves him with two choices: convince Lamar to win the semifinals by a margin of 7 points or less, or he would kill Amy and then Jim. Now with 2 days left before Lee's time is up, Jim wakes up to find Lee in his house. Lee says that though he is a wealthy man now, he remembers what it's like to owe. He remembers the numbness and suicidal feeling. Jim says that if Lee wants his money back, he should lend him another $100,000. After these shakedowns, Jim empties his office and tells Amy to tell him goodbye. Knowing that he has done nothing to get either of his lenders their money back, he is realistic about his situation, and fully expects that one of them will kill him. She doesn't do this, but is clearly hurting for him since he hates himself so much. Jim finds Lamar and tells him the terms that he was given, offering him $150,000 to win by less than 8. Lamar debates the idea, and leaves before giving Jim his answer. Not knowing what Lamar will do, Jim goes back to Frank. He advises that Jim get over himself and change to his FU attitude. He tells him that if he was smart, Jim would learn to tap out while he's ahead so that he can invest in low-risk investments and keep some money for a change. Frank does decide to lend Jim the money he needs to pay back Lee, but does so with the condition that if he doesn't pay him back, everyone that Jim has ever loved will die. Jim then goes to Lee, but instead of paying him back what he owes and now has, Jim asks to borrow another $150,000. Lee's men don't take kindly to this and beat him up. Jim says again that if Lee wants any of his money back, he will have to gamble. Despite his better judgment, Lee gives him the money. Jim gets the $150,000 he promised to Lamar. He then sends Dexter, another of his students, to Las Vegas with the $260,000 he borrowed from Frank with instructions to bet on the game there. Lamar holds up his end of the deal and ensures that his team wins by less than 8 points. Jim uses his Vegas winnings to pay off his debt to Neville, while also denying that he knows anything about the bet in Vegas. Now that Jim has finally paid Neville, Neville says that he never wants to see him again. Having fully paid off one of his debtors, he just has to worry about Lee and Frank now. He convinces them to both meet him at a gambling den in Koreatown. The only way he can pay them both back is to bet with it. He bets all of the money on one roulette spin, that he wins. Relieved that he won, Jim walks away from the table and the club. He leaves the money he won for Lee and Frank to collect. His winnings were more than his debts, and Frank offers this extra to him. Jim turns him down, just as he finally turned down playing again while he was up. Penniless, but happier than he has been in ages, he walks miles through LA to Amy's apartment. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.